Yo, what is up, guys? So I had a debate with somebody named TheShyDoomer on Discord. They're going to be starting with their opening statement on why homosexuality, as they believe, is normal, and I'm going to be objecting and saying why I believe it is abnormal. This discussion is based on medical sources, and I hope you guys deeply enjoy it.
And you said you wanted me to start? You ready?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll start the timer.
Okay. Homosexuality is natural, normal, and not a mental disorder. In 1973, the American Psychiatric Association asked members of the APS convention to vote on whether they believed homosexuality to be a mental disorder. 5,854 psychiatrists voted to remove homosexuality from the DSM. 3,810 voted to retain it. It wasn't until 1987 homosexuality was completely removed from the DSM. Many people claim the change in how we understand homosexuality now is that of a conspiracy. The queer cabal scared organizations into adopting their agenda. Our current understanding is not that of a is not that occurred from an opinion. It has not occurred from an opinion, but the lack of evidence in homosexuality being a mental disorder. We have almost a century's worth of data pointing to homosexuality being a natural and normal experience of not only human beings, but other species. Medical associations all around the world agree homosexuality is a normal counterpart to homosexuality. Studies have found no evidence that homosexuality itself causes negative psychological effects. Research suggests that sexual orientation is likely influenced by a combination of genetic, hormonal, and environmental factors. This is important to note that while homosexuality is not pathological, social stigma and prejudice against gay individuals can lead to mental health issues like anxiety, depression, and suicidality. While some individuals may experience distress related to their sexual orientation, this is a matter of individual experience. Well-being is not reflect and well-being. It's not reflected by the orientation itself. Evolutionarily, homosexuality makes sense. As a social species, having relationships between males would encourage alliances and allow low status males to uh, reposition themselves in the group hierarchy, increasing their reproductive success. From Mesopotamia till now, we find documented evidence that homosexuality has been a part of the human experience. In the 1950s to early 1970s, therapists offered conversion therapy in attempts to cure male homosexuality. This typically involved showing patients pictures of naked men, not women, naked men,
Shai,
while
the time
giving
is up.
them.
If
Okay,
uh, if you
No,
would
I'm
not
I'm
like
fine.
to
I'm
extend the
fine.
time,
I'm fine. I'm
okay,
fine. They can
perfect.
they can continue
okay.
talking. No, it's all good.
In the 50s to early 70s, therapists offered conversion therapy in attempts to cure male homosexuality. This typically involved showing patients pictures of naked men while giving them electric shocks or drugs to make them vomit. Then, once they could no longer bear it, showing them pictures of naked women or sending them out on a mock date with a young nurse. In extreme cases, lobotomies and castrations were utilized. Needless to say, these cruel and deranged methods proved entirely ineffective. There is no scientific basis or clinical evidence to support the usage of psychological or surgical interventions to change someone's sexual orientation. In conclusion, people don't choose who they are attracted to, and even with the social stigma pushing against them, there are still people who are attracted to the same gender. I yield my
All
time.
right. All right. All right. So number one, the big takeaway, there was a misinformation, and I know it might not have been intentional, but number one,
Hmm.
the vote system that you were talking about. So this is my statement. I'm criticizing what you said, and I'm also going to make a position for myself. So this debate hasn't started dialogue yet. The Board of Trustees in 1973, I believe, There was a vote and it was taken. It was a vote to give the Board of Trustees the final say. Actually, homosexuality didn't drop out of the DSM because there wasn't a fifth edition back then. So the DSM 1, 2, 3, whatever. It didn't drop out because of science. It didn't drop off because of psychiatry. It dropped off because of gay activists. And I do have a source for that, and it's all there. So this is not even for disputation, and it's a pro or neutral source for homosexuality, and it actually in fact probably considers homosexuality to not be a disorder, because clearly that's what people think is the consensus nowadays, but it's actually not true. And on top of that, it was 58% of psychiatrists in 1973 who voted for the Board of Trustees to have the final say. So an additional 42% didn't actually want the Board of Trustees to have the say. So that would have been so I would assume that homosexuality would still remain within the DSM, or the psychiatrists themselves are the ones who get to make the decision. But it was, homosexuality was dropped because of gay activists. Okay, now I'm going to make my case for why homosexuality is a disorder. Homosexuality is inherently dysfunctional. You cannot have a child in regular means. The unconscious experience of being attracted to a man, especially when it dwells in your mind, and that's what you're attracted to, and that's what you're only attracted to, you're not going to have sex with a woman, and having sex with a woman is essential in order to reproduce. Now, you're going to say, well, oh, what about sperm banks? Oh, I could just, put my sperm in a cup and then give it to a woman, and now she's pregnant. Sure, you can, but that doesn't change what the innate, inherent dysfunctionality of homosexuality is. It doesn't change that. If I have poor vision and I wear glasses, that doesn't change the fact that I still have poor vision. If I have issue being able to sense myself getting too full, the stretches in my stomach, right? But I have a machine that tells me because of AI that I'm eating too much. That doesn't change the fact that my stomach still has an issue. The same way how it doesn't change the fact that homosexuality is still inherently dysfunctional. On top of that, homosexuality is strongly correlated with pedophilia. And no, I am not exaggerating. There is a strong correlation with homosexuality and pedophilia, and I do have the sources, and I also have graphs, which are made by a professional psychiatrist in the 21st century. So this is not old stuff. It's also associated with fetishistic disorder, which is a recognized paraphilia. Pedophilia is a recognized paraphilia. All of these things are strongly correlated with homosexuality. On top of that, homosexuals experience depression and trauma and sexual abuse growing up, and that has a correlation with being a homosexual. In fact, there was tests where the variable of social stigma was taken out to the best of abilities. It's very hard to do that, I'll be fair, but there was still evidence to suggest that homosexuals inherently have distress and issues in their day-to-day life. It's just a fact, okay? And I think that should be enough for now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that was a lot. I also gave you a lot. Your first point, what I was my source on most of these things, I gave my source to Rhino like you asked me to, and my source on most of these and what I like pretty much repeated from verbatim was of the what are they called, the PMC.
The PUB you mean, right?
Nope, the PMC.
PMC.
Yep.
Yeah, PMC. Sorry, I'm actually dumb. Yeah,
Yes.
the PMC. I always thought, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
I have the same sources.
So
I have the PMC sources as well.
I wanted to ask you what makes what makes something a mental illness, or like
When it's dysfunctional.
yeah. Okay. So
Homosexuality is inherently dysfunctional.
inherently dysfunctional. In what way?
100%. Because it leads you to not be able to reproduce, or it makes it harder.
Okay. Do you think reproduction is the only thing that matters when it comes to human life?
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Now we can hear you.
Okay,
yes.
now we can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My bad. I'm asking if reproduction is the only thing that matters when it comes to human life and flourishing.
Well, um, doesn't that kind of answer itself?
No, I need you to answer for me.
If humans don't reproduce, how do we flourish?
There's plenty of people that live lives where they have not reproduced and they still
Yeah, but
flourish.
if humanity as a whole did not reproduce, how would we
Well, we're not
flourish?
talking about humanity as a whole. We're talking about individuals that have same-sex or gender relations, which isn't a
Same
huge
sex.
amount.
We have to say same sex, not gender.
Okay, same-sex.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, that doesn't change the fact that it's still on an individual level has limiting effects on that person.
just because you can't reproduce doesn't mean you're not
Yes.
having a flourishing life. Just because you
All right, all right,
aren't
all right. Yeah,
reproducing
just
doesn't mean you can't
just be
provide for society or help those who are reproducing. Remember the saying, it takes a village
okay,
to raise a
okay,
child,
okay, okay.
right?
All right. So okay, if I have bad eyesight, which I
Hmm.
thankfully don't, and I needed to wear glasses, does that not change the fact that I still have bad eyesight?
No, that does not mean you have uh, good eyesight because, no.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
inherently and intrinsically, whatever big word you want to use, I don't have good eyesight and it's limiting me. But thanks to human intellect, which we use our conscious with, we can we can figure something out through it. We can compensate,
Is
right?
it?
Same way how homosexuals can compensate.
Okay.
Homosexuals, we're talking about the attraction here, right?
Okay, yeah.
Straight men could theoretically have homosexual sex. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking from a mental perspective, being attracted to men. Inherently, it limits you, it makes reproduction harder. That's a dysfunction.
Do you think homosexual men can't have sex with women?
No, they can, but that's a choice because they thought, using human intellect here, this is my whole point. Hey, you know what? I can't have kids because I can't have sex with a woman because I'm a homosexual. And if I'm a homosexual, then the only way I could get kids is impregnate a woman. How am I going to impregnate a woman? I might choose to actually go sleep with a woman, or I might choose to give her some of my sperm.
Well,
Yeah, you can make that.
you already said
That's
that
a compensation.
there's other ways science has allowed them to reproduce, right?
We're not going to get into that. We're not going to talk
Is
about
it
that
because
stuff. Let's
like it
just go.
goes against what you're saying that they can't reproduce? Like
No,
we have
because
a we our
what
current
are you,
state of affairs, they can reproduce. They
what are you
can
talking about?
give a
Yeah, because of
donation.
science.
Yeah, they
Because of
can get
science.
without having to
Because
have
of
sex.
science.
Without having to have sex.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I
Yep.
meant by giving sperm.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that doesn't change the
So
actual unconscious. That doesn't change the attraction.
that doesn't. So your argument is like it's bad and wrong because they can't
No, whoa, whoa,
reproduce,
whoa,
right?
whoa. Slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down.
All right. Okay.
The title of the debate is homosexuality normal? We're
Mm-hmm.
talking from a medical point of view. This is not a moral conversation.
Okay.
We're not saying wrong or right or anything in between. We're talking about
Normal.
biology. Okay, so
Okay.
let's stick to that. Yeah. We're
Well,
not talking about right or
your
wrong here.
arguments up until now, were like about how homosexuality is wrong and
No, it
bad.
wasn't. No, I did. I never even used those
Do you
words a single time.
don't you think like saying oh because it's their reproductive dead ends that's why like it's a mental illness? Don't you think that's like
Yes.
like you're showing harm right there, saying it's bad, right? If the whole conversation is
What?
just
Okay,
wait
okay,
wait wait
okay,
wait wait
okay. Is
wait wait wait
having
wait just give me a
okay.
second. If the whole conversation is if it's normal, well look
Okay.
around you. If it's naturally occurring right now, I would say it's pretty normal.
You know, pedophiles are pretty around as well.
Yeah,
They
but
just
we're
don't
not talking
talk about
about
it.
bad or good, right? We're just talking about if
We're
it's
not.
normal or if it's
Yeah,
around.
being a pedophile is definitely not normal, and that's by
It's not
scientific
typical
consensus.
and it's not
It's
good, but
absolutely
it's
no, 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 no.
a
You want to use PMC? Every single medical source you will find, 100 years now, 100 years back, and now. By the way, let me get the definition of pedophile straight. I'm not talking about being attracted to minors that are like 14, 15. That's not the medical definition of pedophile. The medical definition of pedophilia is being attracted to a prepubescent child. If you are attracted and you prefer
Mhm.
prepubescent children, you definitely have something wrong going on in your head.
Why are
Why?
we talking about
Because
pedophilia?
I'm trying to explain to you
I know what
why not being
pedophilia
able to
is.
read. Okay, why not being able to reproduce is dysfunctional, the same way how
But they
basically
can
any other
reproduce.
paraphilia is yeah, pedophiles can reproduce, but we're
No,
talking
gay
about the
people can.
inherent
Gay men
we're
can
ta- we're,
reproduce.
we're talking about the inherent attraction and what it symbolizes.
No, we're talking
Inherent
about if
homosexual and attraction
Okay,
does not
okay,
signify reproduction at all.
we're talking
guys,
about if
just a second.
homosexuality is normal.
Yeah, just a second. We are talking about normal. Can we please get a definition of normal before anything else?
Okay.
Normal means having a sexual attraction that is not dysfunctional.
No,
The
no, a
opposite of
definition
normal.
of normal, not of normal
Bro,
sexual attraction, of normal.
what type of question? That's a Jordan Peterson type of question. What is normal? Everybody knows what normal means. I'm not gonna answer these type of
No,
questions.
I mean we are in a debate, and that's the whole part of the debate, whether it's normal or not.
Listen. Let me tell you something. Are you debating me or am I debating? Am I
I mean,
debating Shy
I
Doomer?
am
Am I
the
debating you or am I
moderator
debating?
of your debate, and your debate is on normality. We should at least define what the term you're
Okay,
using we're discussing.
being normal in this context, in general, if you want just the raw definition of normal, being normal is something that is typical. What else? How am I supposed to define it? It's something that doesn't have any negative consequence on your life. It's
No.
typical. It's healthy. It's beneficial. That's normal.
Cancer is normal. That doesn't. It's
Cancer is not normal. Cancer occurs, but that doesn't make it normal. The issue here is you could say cancer can naturally occur, but
okay.
that doesn't make cancer normal. Let me get a definition here. Wait, you asked for a question. Let me give you a definition. Let me give you so you can
I would
completely
say
understand. So you can
confirming to
completely
us.
understand. Wait. I'll give you as long as you like. I'll let you talk in the start as much as
Okay.
you like. Let me tell you something. There's a difference between average and normal and things that occur and things that are intrinsically normal. For example, if you go to America and there's a bunch of people who are fat, that doesn't make being fat normal. It makes it an average. There's a difference between normal and average. Is being that fat typical? Of course it's not. Is it an average in America? Yeah, but it's not normal. Normal has to be within the lines of being healthy and being what a human is supposed to be. That's what normal means.
I think I don't agree with that definition. You're shoehorning a bunch of things in it to justify your position more. I would have agreed with like uh, conforming to a standard using typical or expected, right? Usually typical or expected, you know? I'd agree to
Okay.
that kind of definition, but like
Yeah, anything can be any.
you're shoehorning a
All right.
bunch of
So what's
things
the
in there
percentage?
that
What's the percentage
means
of
good.
homosexuality? What's the percentage of homosexuality among the population, Western population?
Um,
What's the percentage?
I would say the second half of the definition under the second half, like it's still normal, like usual, typical, or
Yeah,
expected, right?
that's not medical.
I
That's what
would
you
say
think.
human beings at this point,
It's
we can just
it's
expect
just
that they're to be gay people because we can see them since
you're not you're
Mesopotamia,
not you're not
you know?
just because Mesopotamians had sex with each other doesn't mean that being homosexual
Well,
is
not
normal.
only Mesopotamians, but
There's people who killed and massacred babies and cut their heads off and boiled their blood and
yeah, but
drank
we're
it.
not talking about good or bad. We're just talking about if something
Yeah,
exists,
we're
right?
not talking about good or bad, but that's clearly mentally ill.
We're talking about something exists. I think it's a pretty normal
Yeah.
experience. It's just
You're
another.
okay.
It's a pretty normal.
You're
Like,
really
wait. It's just a pretty normal. Like, being gay is a normal experience for some human beings, right? Like, some people just are gay. You know, that just happens sometimes.
yeah. And some people are just pedophiles.
But we're not talking about if it's a good or a bad thing necessarily. We're just talking about if it exists,
I
right?
never said being a pedophile is good or bad.
Yeah, that's the point. You're not even
I said
listening
it's
to what I'm
mentally ill.
saying. You're not even hearing what I'm saying. Your part of your argument is trying to shoehorn like ethics into if it exists or not. But
Well,
if it
I
just
never mentioned any. Can you tell me one time I mentioned anything about ethics just once?
are you not making ethical arguments by saying like the
When did I
fact that they
ever
are
make ethical
reproductive
arguments?
by saying
When
that
did I?
they're reproductive dead ends by saying that like they're mentally ill
How's
that
that
they
ethical?
like
How is that ethical?
because
How's
it's
that ethical?
ethically good to continue the bloodline of humanity so we don't
No,
die off
no,
as a species, right?
I never mentioned
Are
anything
you
about
serious right
ethical
now?
good or.
You're
I'm
trying to
very
like
serious.
allude to like pedophilia every single time I bring up. You brought up you're saying pedophilia
Yeah,
bad right
because
now, and then you also said like homosexuals and pedophiles
I
are like
never ever said pedophilia was good or bad. Not once.
Is
Can we
pedophilia
just get
bad?
that clear? Not gonna answer.
Is it
It's
bad?
irrelevant.
Is it
It's
bad?
irrelevant to the conversation. Irrelevant to the
Well,
conversation.
true. Then why do you keep on bringing up pedophilia, bro?
Because it's a mental illness and it's strongly correlated with homosexuals?
It's not actually strongly correlated with homosexuals.
Yes, it is.
No.
Yes, it is. Yes,
The
it is. The
homosexuality
percentage.
is the attraction
Okay,
of the
can I actually?
same
You've just been
sex.
talking the whole time. Can I respond?
You said so much, but okay.
Yeah, you ask me questions, I respond. You say I'm making an ethical argument, I tell you I'm not, and then you keep on pushing it. Number one, I've never mentioned anything about good or bad a single time. There was no ethical arguments whatsoever. Okay?
Okay.
I am trying to make a correlation between pedophilia and homosexuality because it exists. Pedophiles are twice as likely to be, well, I don't know how to phrase this without sounding misleading, but say the regular homosexual, according to the study, 1 in 20 men are homosexual. In pedophiles, 1 in 11 men are homosexual. And in fact, when you look at graphs of pedophilic attraction between heterosexual pedophiles and homosexual pedophiles, you'll actually come to realize that homosexual pedophiles are usually more of an exclusive variant of heterosexual pedophiles. They prefer children a lot more than they prefer either pubescents or adults, a lot more exclusively than heterosexual pedophiles do. Clearly, also there's other lists of neurological issues, which is a very common way, is by measuring left-handedness. It's strongly correlated with neurodevelopment issues when you're growing up. Guess what? Homosexuals have higher left-handed rates, especially in women, than
What are we even
heterosexuals.
talking about?
We're talking about mental illness.
You're saying left-handed people are not mentally ill? What are we talking about?
No, I didn't.
Okay,
I
so
said
like the whole concept. Okay,
you
so
just
a
straw
lot of
manned everything I just said. I
No,
told
no.
you it's
The
correlated.
problem here is that you're arguing, you're like trying to make a point about them being mentally ill.
Mhm.
But what would them being mentally ill even do to your argument?
Yeah, mental illness is normal.
What?
Yep. It's a common thing. Like a lot of people are mentally ill. It's just a normal thing that happens sometimes.
Are you even like?
It's natural. That's for sure.
That's you're losing it, man.
Yeah, I'm losing it for sure. So I just would like to push back on the misinfo that you just pushed out. A lot of the
didn't push out any
studies, a lot of
misinfo.
the studies
I'll-
that
I'll
people
do
like
that.
you want to wait. I let you talk. A lot of the studies that people want to point out when it comes to homosexuality, being uh, like the majority of homosexuals being pedophiles and whatnot. A lot of that is misinfo because not necessarily the case. When the attraction to children is more of a dominating thing, is more of a controlling aspect than being attracted to the same sex. Like,
Says who?
s-
That's not true, actually. You want to know why?
it says
we
National
talk about,
Institutions of Health.
Okay, if we talk about subjects like this, would you both mind giving the sources in the chat?
Yeah, no
Okay.
problem, man.
Yeah.
What do you want? What source do you want? You want the graphs and stuff?
Are
Sure,
like
I'll
all
send that
the
in.
wait, are all the priests that like diddle little boys, are they all gay?
They probably are, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought.
What's that question have to do with anything with the conversation? Yo, silent. This guy's silent in the chat, bro. Keep your mouth shut. This conversation's not for you. You've had this planned a week ahead. You're not him, bro.
Oh my goodness. If you'd like to post things in the side, go for it. I ain't gonna police anyone's language.
I don't know how to pin it though, so these guys are just gonna raid. Yo, moderator, can you shut the chat off? Can we have the chat towards the end and then we can answer people?
I'm okay with chat.
But wait,
It's
why
just
is
annoying
what's the problem with chat? That they're
Why are we
when I-
pinging
upset
you?
about
Or what?
chat?
Because when I link something, people are just talking, so it's great to have my information just there, or it's just an ability to pin it or something.
I mean, I'll just ping it for TheShyDoomer. It's not really.
I was the one who sent it, so can you pin it for me as well?
I mean, it is only
yeah.
useful for TheShyDoomer and
I'm
you're
not
debating
like I don't
TheShyDoomer,
want to do that.
not
Like I don't
really-
really. I'm not gonna. I'd rather like attack arguments instead of like attack sources. Like I really don't care if like what he says
Glad
is true or
I'm
false.
glad you don't. I'm glad you don't.
Like
Thank you.
I
I
don't
hate when people do
care.
that.
No, I do care what if you say is true or false. I don't care about like your sources or anything like that necessarily, right? So
Trust
like
me, you can take my word.
we're
You can
talking
take my word.
we're specifically like we're in the weeds right now. The discussion
Okay. You.
is
All
homosexuality
right, can I respond?
normal, right? Let's try to stay on that.
Yeah,
You've been going all
of
over the
course.
place about like uh dead ends of birth and all these other things, right? But we're
You asked
just
me
let's
why I
just
think it's
try to
dysfunctional, and I explained to you why it is.
that's not a definition of normal that is anywhere in like that I can find. Dysfunctionality doesn't partake within normality or even natural occurring things, right?
Okay, do
So
you want to listen? Can I talk? You kind of filibuster a bit. I'm not trying to be rude. I know you don't mean it, but I just want to talk.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I explained to you why I believe it's dysfunctional, and it's because homosexuals can't reproduce. Okay? That's my reason why it's dysfunctional, and that's my reason why it's abnormal. Cool?
Yeah, but that's not just because something is dysfunctional doesn't mean it's like not a normal occurring thing.
You do real normal, bro. Anything can be normally occurring with that
Yeah,
definition.
yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't. That's not what I'm arguing.
Well, then you should have like made the discussion about like is it pathological or is it
Yes, that was the whole
bad?
point by norm.
No,
Yeah, no,
the
it's not
okay,
about
if you
that.
want to
It's
talk
mental.
about
I
that,
told you it's a mental illness because it's dysfunctional. That's the point. I've said that a million times.
well, you said the debate discussion is if it's normal or natural. Like if you look at
No,
the
I literally made a distinction between natural and normal for this exact reason.
well, it should have been is homosexuality
Can you just wait? Can you
pathological?
can you can you can we just debate honestly and actually
I'm trying
attack
to.
what I'm presenting?
Okay,
You know what I'm presenting now.
Humor,
If you agree with me, wait, wait, wait,
we both
moderator,
agree
bro,
on
please, please,
the
please,
wording
please,
for the
please,
debating.
please, please, wait, wait, respectfully, I'm talking. Respectfully, you've just been attacking me. I have just as much. I know you favor her argument, but can you be quiet for a second? All right? Number one, I've already explained to you these ideas. If you agree it's dysfunctional, we can end the debate here. We'll just end the debate. You agree with me, I
No, I
won.
don't think it's
If you
dysfunctional.
don't, okay, then let's argue about it being dysfunctional then.
Okay, so
Thank
we're
you.
gonna argue if it's like pathological or dysfunctional.
Yes,
What
sure.
is okay? I think that should have been the discussion the whole time, but yeah.
That's what I identified way before, but you want to play it out like this because you're kind of being dishonest, but hey, you know what? There's nothing I can do about that.
You were
So
literally
I
the
think
one
it's
that got to word the debate. So I'm sorry that like
I literally we had a conversation. We had a conversation before this debate on another call last week, and I
mm-hmm.
literally said this.
And I let you decide the title of the debate, and I made
And I made a
arguments for the
differentiation, and I
title.
made a distinctive what I meant by normal, and that's why I differentiated from
hmm
natural. Can we continue? I don't want to do this.
Okay, well, I would just have to repeat what I said already. In my intro is that homosexuality in itself is not pathological. There are outside factors that lead to people having mental disorders like anxiety, depression, and suicidality. But once those things are alleviated, the depressive depression rates and suicide rates lower. We also see this in other groups of people that are part of the
Okay.
LGBTQ.
Yeah. Can you tell me why they still innately have higher depression than the rest of the
Because
world,
we live
even
in a
when very
society that's like
no,
really
no.
shitty to
There's
them
been a study.
still.
No, there's been a study where that variable was taken out of place, and they still had higher rates of sexual abuse and
How do
depression.
you take
Can you
out
explain it?
how do you take that like you're asking people how they feel in a society in a world that demonizes them? How do
All
you
right, you want the
remove that
study? Can you?
variable?
All right, argue with the study. Don't argue with me. I can send you the study.
No, I'm just asking you how can you possibly remove that variable, right?
They're a lot smarter than I am. I'm not a psychiatrist.
Did we just
That's
like find some queers in the nether sphere that and they actually like have a
but then
decent
okay,
life
but
and we asked
so
them?
many mental disorders are stigmatized, yet they still figured out whether they actually have problems in their emotions and their day-to-day life and mental health, or whether it was from social stigma, right? If they could do that with any other disorder, I'm sure they could do that quite fine with homosexuality.
Yeah, I think living in a country or in a world that majority says you're not people like you saying that you're not normal, you're not natural, you're mentally unwell, and claiming like it's a negative thing that you exist the way that you exist is going to lead to some negative outcomes for that person's mental health.
When
Like
when when
it's
did I
pretty
ever
simple,
when
1 to 1. The
okay,
through line is clear
okay,
as day.
okay. I'm gonna have to bring this example up. I won't even use pedophile this time. If I went to a
Whoa.
paraphilic, if I went to a paraphilic, okay, any paraphilic who enjoys spying on people, forgot the name of that one. The one who likes showing his private parts in front of people, that's another paraphilia. Someone who's attracted to dogs and cats, zoophilia. Somebody who's has fetishistic disorder, he's attracted to objects. All these are mental disorders. They're recognized as mental
Mm-hmm.
disorders. They're none of them either they can't reproduce or they have some sort of sadistic, disgusting sort of a like they just have a negative outview. They're out there to harm. That's what it is. For if you're sadistic, that literally means you're out there to harm people, bro. So these are what paraphilias are. You either can't reproduce or you're either in that realm. It's an unnatural. It's an not a normal. It's atypical. That's what a paraphilia is. Okay. So if I went to a pedophile and I said, not to a specific pedophile, but if I said generally that pedophiles are not normal, they have a mental illness, I'm going to be upsetting some pedophiles, even the ones who haven't hurt any children. That doesn't make my statement untrue.
Do you think there might be a little bit of like I thought you said you weren't going to pedophilia, but then okay. Do you
I said
think there
it's
do you
paraphilias as a whole. Pedophilia is just
do
the most commonly known one. All
do
right.
do you think there might be a little bit of a difference between two consenting adults of the same sex and children or having sex
That's
with
a moral. That's
animals?
a moral discussion. That's a moral discussion. We're not
No,
talking
no,
about
no,
the
no.
act. We're
It's not
talking
an
about
immoral dissection. Like,
it
what's the
is.
difference between those things? Can you tell me the difference between those things? I can.
That's a moral question.
The answer is consent, right?
Yeah. That
Because
okay. Yeah. Is the age of
because
consent? Wait, is the age of consent a social construct? Why is it 18? Who got to
what are we
who got to
talking?
rule who got to rule that because your consent argument's garbage. We can get into this moral argument all that we because they can't consent. That's not a biological argument. That's a moral
No.
argument. Stop bringing morals into
Well,
this. Yes, it is.
stop making comparisons to adults that are consenting to have sex with each other to fucking animals and children, you weirdo. Like,
How am I a weirdo?
cause you keep on wanting to talk about diddling kids, and what is that like
Well,
whole
okay.
age of
Why is it? Why
consent
is
is
it?
like what do you
Okay.
think the age of consent
Is
should be?
morality
What do you think the
subjective?
age of consent should be? If you disagree with like the
Irrelevant.
standard
That's
of
a
the
moral
argument,
question. That's a moral question. What I think about the age of
yeah,
consent.
because
It's
we're
a
now
moral
talking about
question.
pathological or morality. We're not talking about
We're
like
not.
emotion,
We're talking
like
about mental
a
illness.
mental.
Can we stay
Yeah.
on topic?
Well, you're the one talking about morally bad things, but then when I point out
That's
that
your
you freak
opinion.
out,
It's your opinion that pedophilia is
it's
morally
not.
bad.
Is that not your opinion? Do you not agree?
Is morality subjective?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so you have no reason to think. You have no reason to be upset if I
No,
said
Yes.
because there's
that.
harm. We can look at these
But
situations and
that's
understand
subjective.
harm,
But that's
individual
subjective to you. You
harm.
said morality. You said morality
No.
is subjective. Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
my
hey. Let me ask you
subjective
something.
standard,
What's your
my
favorite
wait,
color?
wait, you're
What's your
crashing
favorite
out.
color?
You're chill. My subjective standard is harm and like I want to reduce as much harm as possible. So like you saying all these are bad, spooky things that are harmful. I'm like, yeah, those things are harmful because there's lack of consent. There's like disease involved with animals. Children is harmful and bad and disgusting. But like when we're looking at same-sex consenting adults, the harm in comparison is not there, and that's why I keep on saying, why are you bringing this up?
Yeah, because pedophiles happen to be correlated with what homosexuals. So
You are making that
By the way,
correlation.
no, please, the study you linked doesn't prove anything
yes,
of
it
what you said.
does. Yes, it does
I
because they
appreciate
took a
that.
test. They had
I
no,
have
no,
read the whole study in between. It doesn't.
no. You didn't read the whole study because it's pretty hard to read that whole thing. Let me because you're misinterpreting it. You're the moderator, so can you be quiet? Why are you
No,
arguing for her? Be quiet.
the problem is
For the love of God, can
the
you keep your
problem
mouth
is
shut?
that you made a
Please,
claim
can you
and you
keep your
gave a source,
no,
and it is
because
my
I'll
job
explain.
as a
All right, all right,
moderator
all right,
to
all right,
read
all
the
right. You
source.
got me to do it. You got me to do it. You got me to do it. I'm opening my screen. I'm screen sharing. I have everything from the source. It's all documented right in front of me. You thought I wasn't ready for this? Guess what, boy? I am. So let's open up my screen right now. All right. Let's open up my screen. Let's have some good
What
Okay,
is
fun.
okay? Cool,
Let's have
cool,
some good
cool.
fun. Let's have some
cool.
good fun.
Let's do
All
that,
right.
I guess.
All right. This is his study right here. This is an
Yeah.
image from his study. This is the graphs. All
Okay.
right. This is basically saying the same thing as this. This left, so they had originally about 3,000 people taking the study. They
Wait,
omitted a certain amount of people because the charts were trying to figure out homosexuality and heterosexuality. So anybody who happened to be bisexual wasn't part of this. Anybody who happened to say that these graphs don't correlate his or her personal interest weren't there. I mean, his personal interest, this was only men, didn't correlate, okay? So they didn't add those. As long as the person's history is clean, if he said I don't like men or I don't like kids, wasn't added. Okay. Now it says here, this left 2,278 subjects used in the study. 1,000 heterosexual. This means to be attracted to adults. 761 heterosexual Hep B files, which means you're attracted or you prefer early pubescent children. So it's the step before pedophilia. And then 159 heterosexual pedophiles. You know what's so funny is that there was more heterosexual pedophiles than there was homosexual adult lovers. Because you guys probably don't know what this word means, and I don't know how to pronounce it. Okay, so
Why?
when we look at the
what?
graphs now, yeah.
Why?
What do you mean why? They took a group of people who committed crimes, and homosexuals happened to be pedophilic more often than heterosexuals were.
Wait,
Can you
they
not see the
took
numbers?
they
How
There's
took
could
definitely no. You
crime.
need to go to see that. You need to go in the methodology and look at how
yo
they
what
selected
yo listen
Yeah.
people.
listen listen you're not a moderator if you're arguing for her. Can you be quiet?
I am not arguing for no one. I am
You are.
looking
You're
if
the
your
worst
source is
moderator
correct.
ever. Moderators don't make arguments for the other person. Can you please be quiet?
If I
I am
said
not.
if
I
wait, if
You
I
made
gave
an
a
Can you
argument
be
based on
quiet?
a source.
Can you just no? Can you keep your
if
mouth
I
shut,
gave a
or
bad
I'm not
study,
going to continue this debate because it's being unfair. Be quiet, for the
if
love of
if
God.
I
Keep
gave
your mouth shut.
if I gave a bad study and the moderator went through it and said this doesn't
This
argue,
is not a bad study. It's right here.
I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm just
2,278.
saying
Wait.
okay.
Be quiet. 2,278 subjects used in the study. 1,000 of them happened to be heterosexual adult lovers. 761 happened to be heterosexual early puberty.
Oh no.
More hetero in the rate and
Okay,
ratio of the homosexuals. So look, we have 96. There was
perfect.
more.
So,
Shut
okay,
up!
perfect.
There was more pedophilic. There was more.
Okay, you cannot actually like scream at a moderator to shut up. That's not how debate works. That's what happened when in a debate. So the problem here is that you are presupposing that the way they've looked to find heterosexual is exactly the same as the way they try to find homosexuals. We should look at the methodology to confirm if it's correct or not.
Yo, that was not cool. You're constantly interrupting me, and you're arguing for her case. Can you be quiet? Can you let me talk? People you know what the thing that pisses me off the most is everybody since the start in the chat has been against me because I've been constantly getting interrupted by a moderator who's supposed to be neutral, and he just keeps.
No, moderators aren't supposed to be neutral, are supposed to see if people are doing something wrong and address that. If a person is doing something wrong much more than the other, automatically they're gonna take
Yeah, I definitely
on a side in particular.
I definitely
And the
should.
problem with this is you are making claim based on a study, and we are going through the study, and I have said nothing that making a moral claim or helping like no one. I'm just saying, okay, let's see if your arguments are valid. Let's go through the methodology because that is what you're asking right now. That's your claim.
That's what I was gonna ask. Can we look at the link that you have right there, and can we look at the
Okay.
the conclusion?
Can I finally explain the study for one last time? There was 3,000 men Originally, ones got opted when they said that their
Methodology.
attraction. Can you can you be
Can
quiet?
we?
I'm
You're
explaining the
explaining
source.
your take from it, but I would like to see
Yeah,
the
and I'll send a
methodology
link after.
and
Yes,
like
I'll send
the.
the link. I'll
Just
send the
send it in
link
the chat
after I
right now.
explain.
Just send it right now,
All right,
and then you can yap.
I will send it. I'm gonna explain it, and then you can read it. Can you just
Okay.
give me a second? You're not giving me a moment to talk. There
You.
was originally 3,000 subjects, roughly 800, because you could see the number here, got omitted because they either said that this does not correlate with me, they were either bisexuals, and the ones who said that it did not correlate with them, they were omitted if their history doesn't show. For example, if they said they're not homosexuals and they have no interaction with boys or men, then they would have been omitted. Cool. Okay, so out of these subjects, they were randomly selected. They were all men, and they were taken from people with criminal records, people from psychiatric homes, people with doubts about their sexuality, etc. When we notice here the ratio, it's extremely overwhelming the amount of pedophiles are in the homosexual group. In fact, there was more pedophiles than adult lovers. Okay? You can now, I'll send the link. It's all
Okay.
there. Why would I lie about this?
I
I'm
don't
gonna
think you're
send it right
lying,
now.
but I would like to point out what you just said. They are specifically you looking at people that have been convicted of
Okay.
crimes
Do you,
or put into mental hospitals, right? I don't think that's a good pool to prove like the majority of a population is a thing because you're literally choosing criminals, like you're choosing like a portion of a portion of a portion at this point, right? I don't think that proves
you
what
know
you think it does.
you know what's so
If
funny?
they just
You
did
know
a
what's
poll,
so funny is
go
that the
ahead.
people You know what's so funny is that people that are on your side, their way of arguing and the people in the comments are by calling me a child toucher and calling me crazy because I disagree with everything that everybody thinks is normal. And I'm here to challenge that narrative. And I'm getting called crazy and getting
I
called
don't.
this and that for it. And when I have a temper, I'm talking to them mostly, not you. And
Okay.
when I have a temper, it's because this moderator is being extremely unbiased and I just expose them after I explain this whole thing. And on top of
You
that, there's
didn't.
another. Stop talking. And then on top of that, there's another thing where if you want another source, I can show it right now, which clearly, directly talks about the ratios of homosexual pedophiles versus homosexuals in general population. I can get that up too. This is my introspection of this, and now you will get something that's directly written too. And I've showed
Okay.
you the graphs, which we can get more into detail about the strong homosexual and pedophilic correlation.
Um.
Now, when you make the argument that, well, this is from people who are criminals, yeah, so are the heterosexuals criminals. So can you tell me why the same ratio is not found in in heterosexuals?
Because they literally pulled in this study. They literally pulled people that were questioning their sexuality that were criminals.
Yeah, so were the heterosexuals. They were criminals too.
They didn't you say that they
Okay.
pulled majority of them only were didn't you say
No,
like
it
they
was a
only pulled people that like were questioning their sexuality?
that was a sum, and the other sum was people who were sent because they have crimes and they were taken out as a test. There's people, most of them happen to commit crimes against men, crimes against boys, crimes against girls, crimes against older.
Mm-hmm.
It was taken on all variables. There was no specific selection whatsoever, and it's all there, and it's there for you to read it.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, go
I have
ahead.
read the methodology, and in the methodology, it says that majority of the people that were incriminated had like actual sexual crimes, but also in the people that were asked to come that didn't commit any crime, there were people that were like seeking if they had a problem with that. So completely people that were not in any sort of criminal
Yeah.
arrangement. The
Okay.
problem is, why would you think that? Uh, what is the reason why a lot more straight people decided to come forward to the fact that they are straight, and a lot less gay people decided to come forward to say that they are gay?
This makes absolutely no sense at all.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Because I
does,
told
because in
because
I
you're acting
society,
no,
I
because you're acting like the only very can you let her argue? I mean, whatever they are, like I'm not trying to be rude. Can you let them argue for a second? Like can you just let them argue for their own case?
Yeah,
Can you
it's
stop for a second? I've
I
explained 100 times that the people who came forward volunteered, and those people could have been anything. They could have also been heterosexual pedophiles or heterosexual hebephiles as well, but they didn't. Right? At least not the same amount of ratio. And most people would not admit to pedophilia. Why would you admit to pedophilia? You would come out and you have more reason to not and be like, huh, you know what, guys? I'm a homosexual pedophile. These ain't my words. Don't clip me. I'm giving an example. This, if this is the case, right? Your argument falls flat right below the ground, bro. So can you just stop for a second and let them argue? I don't want to hear your voice another time, please.
well,
I,
there
I, I I just state facts. I didn't want to argue, so
I
perfect.
yeah, I appreciate you pointing these things out and trying to make sure like the audience knows at least, because I'm not putting the work into. I honestly can't with my setup right now look at the links. I so I appreciate what you're doing, but like also we said it was gonna be an hour and it's already been an hour. I'm okay with going for like another 15-20 minutes, but then I have to go because I have other things I have to do on my stream. Okay.
Right, that's
Okay.
fine.
So my whole thing
Yeah.
is, once again, what does this have to do with if it's mental illness or not?
Do you want sources about their depression as well?
Yeah,
Do you want
that's
sources
yeah.
about?
The American Health Association, the World Health Association, has done multiple studies on this, and it seems more like the outcome of mental health and like the lack of mental health in these communities is because of outside forces, not because of their sexuality itself. They're being treated like shit. They're being labeled pedophiles and groomers, like how you're doing in this conversation. And that leads to, like, if society deems like you're gross and you're unwanted, of course you're gonna have like a bad mental outcome, right? And we find that in studies where like people have acceptance in their life, and they have less negative outcomes, like less bigotry, and a few people that like actually do treat them and see them as like a human being, their suicidal rates are decreased and their happiness is increased, right?
Should we do the same for pedophiles? I'm not talking about the harm concept or
Why are we
anything like that.
talking
Should we
about
accept?
pedophiles again?
I'm
Just
asking.
respond to what I'm
I'm asking.
saying.
I'm asking because you say if we say, hey, look, you're normal, look, you're this and that, everything is fine. Don't worry about
What
it. You're not
is
mentally
what is
ill.
an okay, instead of trying to shoehorn pedophiles and LGBTQ people together, what is the inherent harm other than like they're not having babies? Because like I don't give a fuck if someone doesn't have a baby, because it's like up to that person. I don't want to try to force people to live a lifestyle they don't want to live uh because because of the baby thing, right? So like other than babies and pedophilia, what is the inherent harm of two adult men fucking each other?
Having sex with adult men is not correlated to this. I mean, it is correlated, but it's not sexual attraction of men. You could have sex with men and not be gay.
Let me rephrase that. What is the
You can
inherent
have
harm of being sexually attracted to someone that's not what you want to say is
STDs,
pedophilia? Or
STDs, AIDS, and HIV.
oh, guess what? Straight people get STDs too.
Not as often.
Whoa.
Not as
Not as
often.
often. That's because they don't act in as much open sex as the queer community. Because queer
Yeah,
community is more sex
because
positive, and
no, because they're
those things
promiscuous.
have
Because they're
decreased.
promiscuous. Because they're
Yeah,
promiscuous.
because they're more sexually
Yes.
active
Not
with
not
multiple
not.
partners.
Yeah, they're more
Yes.
sexually active because they're more irresponsible, not because they
That's
have
not
more freedom.
irresponsible necessarily.
Yes, it is because you have more STDs and AIDS. Of course, it's
So like
irresponsible.
how's that inherent to the like we can all say like a straight person can be promiscuous, a straight person can get fucking
Yeah, they
STDs,
can, but we're
right?
talking about
Well,
statistics.
I'm asking
Can I?
specifically.
Hey,
That's
hey!
uniquely.
Look, look.
Wait. I'm
You're talking for the majority
specifically.
of the time. There
I
needs to be a dialogue.
you have
I'm
talked
just listening and
so
responding.
much
You're
and you're
asking
not
me.
answering my
No, no,
question.
I'm not.
Sir,
I've answered your questions. They have
sir,
higher rates of
chill.
STDs and AIDS. Yes,
Sir,
they do.
sir, I'm talking about inherent. You can't say something else that can occur in another group. I'm saying that is inherent to homosexuality.
Okay, there's other paraphilias that don't cause that direct type of harm pedophilia does, and homosexuals are still highly correlated with it. Fetishistic disorder is an example.
So there's nothing that's inherent.
I'm talking about mental illness. I don't know why you're asking about this harm factor. I don't know what it has to do with mental illness.
Yeah, and I already said mental illness is
You're talking
increased
about a
when
harm
they're.
factor. Pedophiles just happen to be harmful if they act upon their urges. A bunch of pedophiles aren't if they don't act upon their urges. A bunch of homosexuals, if they don't act upon their urges, don't have homosexual sex. They both would have had the same outcome, but that doesn't mean that both of them are normal. They're both mentally ill.
Do you think this? Do you think it's same? Do you think it's like equally bad or like equally the same if someone doesn't act on their homosexual desire?
If you don't act on your homosexual desire, you're still mentally ill, but you haven't acted on it. What do you want me to say?
Why is it a mental illness inherently?
Because you're supposed to be attracted to women, literally.
Who says?
If you're a man, that is, you're supposed to
Do
be
you
attracted
can
to
you
the
not think of
opposite
like
sex.
any biological advantage that men would have if they had same-sex
You can make
relations?
these excuses up for any mental illness. You can say this stuff
No,
for
I
any mental
can't.
illness. You're not actually
No, I
talking about
can't.
what.
Because
Yes, you can.
thinking like for example, I don't think like for example, being anorexic, I can't make an excuse like this for anorexia. It's just inherently harmful. They have a disconnect of what their body actually is, and it leads to inherent harm because they end up starving themselves and having lack of nutrition, right? I can't think of something that like just because you want to men as a man is going to have that same kind of inherent outcome. Typically it's
Because
outside
if everybody was
factors.
a homosexual,
No one's saying
society
that.
would not
But that's an
exist. But
outside
I'm telling
factor.
you that the product of everybody being a homosexual is a negative on society, so people would not
That is an
exist.
outside factor, and there's not going to be a world where everyone's homosexual. And even if there
Yeah,
was, we
there's
have
not gonna
modern
be a
day
world where
science.
there's not, yeah, but they add to the fact that they literally are adding to the fact that humanity will not
No, they're not.
reproduce as much as it
They
could,
they they
as much
get
as it could,
they
as
get
much as it could.
donors. They get
I'm
women to
telling you,
donor.
okay,
You
you're
know.
differentiating the act from the attraction. How many times do I have to tell you this, bro? Like, are you good?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm chilling.
You could have bad eyesight and wear glasses as a compensation for your bad eyesight. That doesn't mean you don't have bad eyesight. I'm not gonna say this a 50 millionth
Is
time.
bad eyesight a mental illness or something? What?
Bad eyesight is a disability, yeah.
So being homosexual is like a disability?
Yeah, of course.
What's the definition of disability?
You're not able. What?
Not able what?
They're not able to have kids. Literally one of the most important things in life.
I would say that's if you're looking specifically at the factor of like who can have
Of
children.
attraction, yeah.
No.
No, but
Who
okay,
can
you
have
can wear
children?
glasses too.
But
You're still doing the
homosexuals
same
can still
thing.
have kids even without like our scientific advancement. They could still have sex with a woman
Yeah,
to
yeah,
have
because
babies
it
if
just
it's
takes a little
necessary.
less IQ. It just takes a little less IQ, but also makes having children harder because you might not be as intrinsically inclined to have children because you're a homosexual. So, boom.
So like if it's a mental illness, can it be cured?
Who knows? Not all mental illnesses are just cured like that.
So
Who
what's the
knows? Am I a
solution?
doctor to tell you?
If it's a
What's
like
the
how do
solution?
we fix this? If it's a mental illness, can
Yeah.
it be cured? Yes or
Stop.
no? Do you
Can it
believe
be
it?
cured? How am I supposed to know?
I'm asking if you believe it. Or you're saying I just don't
Okay,
know?
well, if I
Is
say
that
I
your
don't
answer?
believe it or I do believe it, what are you gonna get from that?
If you think there's a cure or not to fixing it.
I don't think there's a cure.
Okay. So then what do we do about this?
I said I don't think. I don't know. I told you I don't know. You made me.
So
pick
you
an
don't
answer.
know, like you think this is like a horrible bad thing that's going on, like it's a mental illness that people are trying to
When did I
normalize
use
and
the words
whatnot, and like
horrible and
people
bad?
are just
I've
lying
never
through their
used the
teeth.
word.
Wait, 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 wait,
I've
wait.
never.
You said
I've
it's.
never.
You said it was a
I've
mental
never used the
illness.
word horrible. Yes. When I ever say that was
Yeah,
horrible or bad?
I would say that's
When did
like in my opinion, a mental illness in the way that you've been using it is like a negative thing, right? Like it
Okay.
obviously has negative outcomes, right? So, and we want to fix those negative
Well,
outcomes, right?
well, that we weren't talking about
Can we not talk
morality
about
again.
semantics? And can you just listen to my full argument instead of getting
You
upset about
realize
like a
that
single
you
word?
know what you're doing right now? You know what you're doing right now?
What am I
It's like,
doing?
hey, let me have Huma in a corner here. Let me ask him a million questions and let me make sure he can't ask me anything
You
else.
just
And let me make
answered all
sure.
the
Let me
questions. I
ask.
thought you answered
Let
them.
me Hey guys, I'm streaming. So you see this guy that's talking to me? I'm about to school him. Can you let the guy talk for a minute, aka me? Can you let me talk and let me ask you questions perhaps instead of trying to continuously ask me what I think and then
No,
refute
I
you a
want to
million
still ask
times
my
and then
question.
start straw manning me a million times?
No,
Can you just stop for a second?
no,
For
I
a
want to
second?
ask you
For a
my
second.
question. I just want to ask you my final question.
Okay, okay, final question. Once you ask this question, you're gonna need to give me a moment to talk and ask you a question.
Okay, that's fair. I'm okay with that. I just
Yeah,
wanted to
you've asked
finish
a
my
million,
through
so this
line,
is gonna be
right?
the millionth and one. This is gonna be the millionth and one, and then that's it. Can you ask the question now?
Coolio. Oh, coolio. Okay, so if you don't think that there is a cure, what do we do about this issue that you believe is an issue?
I don't know if there's a cure.
I know.
If you ask me
I
if okay,
said,
let's take both cases. Let's say
bro,
hypotheticals. If there is
bro.
no cure, if there I'll give you both hypotheticals so you can stop asking this dumb question with all due respect. If there is no cure, okay, there is no cure. We don't go out to harm people who haven't done anything. Even if you take it from a moral perspective that homosexuality is bad, which I'm not gonna comment on. If you take that as bad, then you would just say, as long as you don't do that bad thing, then that's fine. If you say that homosexuality is not bad, then you wouldn't care if they had homosexual sex, and that's just gonna be their problem in quotation, right? So
Mhm.
if it is curable and they want to be cured, they can get cured. If they don't want to get cured, they don't have to get cured. What do you want me to say?
I I I know you don't think that there's a cure, right? But my
No,
question to
no, you
you,
don't, because I don't
I
know if
literally
there's a cure.
said
You
in
don't know.
the first part of my question was,
No, you said
if you
I know you
don't,
don't think there's a cure. You just said I
yeah.
know you don't think there's a cure.
Do you think there's a
Okay?
cure?
I told you I don't know.
Okay. What's this?
So can I ask
My
you a
question
question
is
now?
like, no, because you haven't answered mine. What is the solution? What is your freaking solution of this?
I just gave you the solution. I said if there is a cure and people want to get cured who are
Mhm.
homosexuals, they can go get cured. If there isn't a cure, then they're just going to be homosexuals, and that's the way it is.
So you don't, if
What
there
do you?
was no cure, there's nothing else you want to do about it?
Yeah, what am I supposed to do?
Then I would I guess you would just kind of give up and stop talking about this because there's no evidence to being able to cure homosexuality.
Okay, just because you can't cure, just because we haven't found a cure for cancer yet, doesn't mean cancer doesn't exist, does it?
How do you rewrite
Yeah, all
someone's
right, that's what I
brain?
thought. That's what I thought.
How do you rewrite someone's
That's what
brain?
I never said you could. Why are you asking me this question?
Exactly. That's what you would have to do. You'd have to like make someone feel
Yo,
something
yo,
different.
yo, this guy called Diddy talking, bro. Get off, bro. You're the biggest glazer I've seen in my life. You need
Why
to
are you
stop
getting
talking, bro.
upset with chat? Chat's been saying mean things about me too.
This guy's an absolute. He's just a fool, bro. He's just
Why
a
you
fool, bro.
acting like aggro against chat? They did nothing wrong. They just vibing.
That's irrelevant. All right, I already answered your question.
What's your
What
question
next?
now? I promise you I said I would answer your question.
All right.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts now that you know that pedophiles are more homosexuals happen to represent pedophilia more than they represent normal adult attracted people? And also, fun fact in the charts that I have, there's just something cool that I want you to know. If homosexuality is this exclusive variant and it's not a deviation from the norm, then can you tell me why homosexuals happen to be a lot more not a lot, but they happen to be slightly more attracted to women than heterosexual men are to other men?
Can you repeat the first question?
Okay, so the two things is I'm asking you what you think. What do
Yeah,
you
like
think?
separate them. I don't want to answer them all
Okay,
together. Just ask
okay,
one question at a
I'll
time.
ask the
Like a
second one actually because I think it's more important.
okay,
What do you think? Because we've talked enough about this pedophile stuff and you have to go soon. So let's stick with
okay,
this stuff.
okay. Yeah, I didn't
Okay.
want to talk about this at all, but yeah.
Well, too bad. Facts are facts, right? So, anyways, the graph
Yeah,
that
they
I
don't care
have
about your
will
feelings.
yeah, they definitely don't care about yours. That's for sure. Um,
True. That's why I don't
okay,
use them. I don't use feelings.
yeah, sure. Anyways, can we get to the conversation
Yeah,
now?
go
Okay,
ahead.
so
What's your question? Give
okay,
me
so I
one
have the
single
graph. I
question,
have the two
please.
graphs. Actually, in fact, let me open the graph so it's actually easier. Hold on, let me close my stream, reopen it. Everything right. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. All right, hold on. Give me a minute here. All right. All right.
I must say, while you're doing that,
I got it. No, it's here. Don't worry.
oh,
Don't
cool,
worry. Don't
cool.
worry.
I just wanted to say,
Okay.
I'm eating some homemade popcorn. It's pretty good.
No, that's awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying your popcorn.
I
Okay.
am.
All right. So if you look at this graph here, let's focus on this. Forget the pedophiles. We had enough of them, right? Okay, my bad, my bad. All right, let's look here. Adult women, homosexuals happen to be attracted to adult women above threshold level. So what's considered below threshold according to studies, anything at 1 or below, that's negligible. So anything at 1 or below, so heterosexual men happen to not be attracted to men whatsoever of any age group, right? But they actually do happen to be attracted to little girls for some reason, a little more than they are here. That's a little interesting.
Wait, what's going on this? What is going on
So
this?
this graph, okay,
Are
let
you
me
saying
explain.
like
This,
heterosexual men are more attracted to little girls?
yeah, than they are to other men. Yeah, I'm literally saying that.
Well, yeah, I think that'd probably be like a social conditioning kind of thing. I believe in the I think like in some cases, more rare than not, it's like a mentally like a
But
biological
this is
attraction thing, right? Like it's like a core thing to the brain. But like in
okay,
most
but
cases, it's a socially
okay, but
constructed
okay.
attraction, right? So like if you live in a society that sexualizes or hyperfixate on like young beautiful women, you're gonna normalize that within like
Okay,
the
yeah, that's
groups,
fine. That's
right?
fine. Let's get to the study. Let's get to the study. That's fine. That's cool. That's
Okay.
all sunshine and rainbows. Okay. So here, over here, you notice that homosexual men to happen to have an above threshold attraction, about a 2 when it peaks, to adult women. Yet heterosexual men happen to have no attraction to other men whatsoever. So if
Wow.
homosexuality is a specific attraction in and of itself and it's not a deviation of the norm, can you explain to me why they still happen to have some attraction to
Doesn't go
women?
to zero.
This is prepubescent girls, buddy. That's not women.
I
Thank you.
No, I mean, it doesn't go to
I'm having a
zero.
hard time understanding this
Heterosexuals.
graph. Okay, so
I told you a number 1. You see 1 here? You see 1? Imaginary 1 right here? If it's
yeah.
below 1, it's considered to be a below threshold. I said this a million
Okay.
times. I'm surprised you haven't picked it up,
Below
which means the
threshold.
attraction is negligible. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
count as anything part of the system. It's just there for whatever reason. But
Okay.
here, there's an above threshold attraction to women in homosexual men.
So you're saying homosexuals like women more?
Then heterosexuals like men, yes.
Well, yeah.
Well, so can you explain to
That's
me?
Well,
Can you?
that's a okay. So like
reality.
we live in a society that
Yo, oh,
really
yo, yo,
wait.
yo, wait, hold on. Yo, moderator, can you shut the freaking hell up?
No, it's just that Shy has to go, so I would like to get to the point of
I will
what you
answer
think is
this. I will answer this, and then I have to go. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have other things I have to do. Okay. So it's really easy to answer this. So like whenever people live in a society, whenever men live in a society that is extremely stigmatizing, like a negative stigma against like men liking men, heterosexuals will always lie about liking men because they live in a society that
Yo,
will
you do
demonize them
realize
and
this
treat them
graph?
like
No, 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 no,
shit.
no, 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 no. I'm not gonna let you go there because you're misinterpreting the graph. This graph is not based on opinion. This graph is based on the blood flow in a penis.
What?
Yeah, fun fact.
I don't know. Like, how are you gonna like say any of this?
What do you mean saying is this? Because they conducted a study?
No. I mean, like, what is the point of any of this? Yeah, okay. So they found more men that aren't attracted to men than they did find gay men that aren't attracted somewhat to women. Did was it like 100% they were gay or were they maybe bi? You
No,
know?
they no. Okay, so what? So if what? to better help you understand. If
And
I told
it's
you,
like blood
if
flow to a
somebody, no, no,
how do you
wait. If
test
somebody
blood
came and
flow
told
to a
you, no,
penis?
wait, they showed them images, okay, and they had a system, right? I'm not trying to talk too much about it. It's all in the study, and they
True.
figured it out. Okay, it's called I'm gonna mispronounce it, but penal. Uh, what's the word again? I can just find it right now. Give me a second. Go here. Wait, it's in the start. This is penal responses. Okay.
I really have to go. I answered the
penal
question and then you got me with
clefties
the gotcha because
so
they had a penis pump apparently. I'm
graphic.
sorry.
Yeah, I mean it's right there for you.
Yeah. My position is like majority people would be more like bi or pan and than not, you know, if we had a social stigma.
Yeah, well
There's
that kind of
a
shows
lot of
how
evidence and like
doesn't that kind
I
of
think
prove
there
how
would definitely be
abnormal
people that are just straight,
doesn't
right?
that kind
But I
of
feel
prove
like
how
there
abnormal
wait, what?
and doesn't that kind of prove how abnormal
No, and there's a social stigma
homosexuality?
that pushes against everything.
So it's
If you
if it's pretty hard, it's not a social stigma. They showed them images and they tested their
I
penis. That's not a
literally
social stigma.
I I've already said this many times, but bro, we live in a world where like you can be beaten to death for being gay. You can be kicked out of your
No, you
house
can. Not in the
by your
West.
parents for
Not in
being
the
gay.
West. Not in the West. Okay, this
Yes,
has nothing
they
to.
there's
Okay,
a
even if you.
literally
What
someone
does
that
this
lived
have
in
anything? What is this?
wait, wait, it is
what is?
Pride Month, and guess what? Voice actor for King of the Hill was shot and murdered because he was in a homosexual relationship in the West. So what are you talking about?
I guess bad things happen sometimes, right?
Oh yeah, and there's no statistic evidence showing that more bad things happen to these people specifically because who they are,
What is
and that
this?
has
Okay,
no negative outcome
you're just
because of.
rambling. You're just rambling. This has nothing
Bro,
to do
this
with
is
the
what you've
penis
been doing the
graphs.
whole time, and this is my
No.
outro. I hope you all have a beautiful day. Thank you for moderating. I need to go do other things. If you want to do like the voting or whatever, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
All right, bye.
Well, there you guys have it. That was a debate. If you stayed this long, man, biggest thanks to you. Let me know down in the comments what y'all think. And if you really liked my content, I wouldn't be mad if you left a like and subscribe. Now, what do I personally think? I think it speaks for itself. That was an easy destruction. Let's be honest. When you got a moderator arguing for you who's also biased and was a last-minute moderator, what can I say? People be thinking just because you get a little passionate, or on the flip side, irritated because of a moderator like that, you lost a debate because you got angry. But facts don't care about your feelings, right? So regardless of how I was feeling or how TheShyDoomer was feeling, facts don't care. What I presented is medically backed, it's factual, and all the other arguments that were objecting to what I had to say were either emotionally based, misinterpretations, or just a waste of time. Bringing up things about morals, completely irrelevant to the discussion. I even said this previously, but you guys obviously wouldn't know that I don't want it to be a moral discussion. It's a medical discussion. It's biological. Anyways, point clear. TheShyDoomer on this stream that they had, the stream that they were recording, they have it uploaded on YouTube. TheShyDoomer literally said, I think I could have done better. Twice. It also said, I think we all lost. Clearly, TheShyDoomer knows who dominated this battle. And on top of that, there's people in the comments saying, well, he got mad, so you won by default. That's a good way of beating around the bush and coping. But anyways, guys, we flipping a new page in our chapter. Let's leave that aside. We got greater and better bangers in the future. Ones where we're not going to be treated so unfairly in. Besides the point, thank y'all again so much for tuning in, and I'll see y'all next time.